afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Talking with Margaret. And today we're going to be talking about values. What are the things that make up our values, our standards, our values that cause us to have our integrity, responsibility, and the way we live our lives? So that's what we're talking about today, and I invite you to call in if you'd like to chat with me about it. And that number is 347 838 8835. So, and to tell you just a tad about me, I am Margaret Martin, as I said. I'm a speaker, a coach, and an author. And this month, in April, last month, we were talking on various things, items and topics of my book, The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power. And that's where this whole series for these 2 months has come from, is various segments within our book that will allow you to just capture bits and pieces of it. And again, all of the recordings are archived here on my site at BlogTalk Radio. And so you can find that on Facebook as well as on my website. It's everywhere. So as I said, today we're talking about values. So what are our values? And when I was writing that in the book, I actually, I said, okay, I went back to a lot of and did some research based on my coaching program, the training I got as a life coach to talk about that. And it really comes down to our values are activities, preferences, or behaviors to which you're naturally drawn. These are the things that fulfill you. So they're important to you. And so they're not your needs. Our needs are like our basic needs. We need food, shelter, clothing, those kinds of things, our resources, and whatever are those things that are true needs. But our values are the things that we hold important in our lives. And I find that in doing this exercise, I think it's good. Probably a good thing to do is to review it once a year at least, and see where if anything has changed. And so, in the book, I've created a whole list of values that you can see here. That let me hold that still for just a moment. I'm recording this on video as well as on Blog Talk Radio at the same time. So just looking at some of the words that would be might be part of your values. Let's see. Some of them are I am accepting, or being accepting of other people or whatever the circumstances. That may be one of yours. It may be awareness. It may be connected to people. It could be being the best, being the greatest, being daring, devoted, trust, risk. Taking risk may be important to you. Going with the flow. Interesting, that can be a value. Being passionate. Passionate about life, passionate about people, passionate about things. A lot of different ones here. Kindness. How important is kindness to you? And then just look at all thoughtful, want to improve, trustworthy. Now there's a whole difference in being trusting and trustworthy. So looking at what some of the differences are there, what might be the difference between trusting and trustworthy? Well, as a trusting person, you trust other people. You trust them to be and do the things that they say they will do and be who they say they are. And being trustworthy means that people can count on you. You're honest, and honesty is another value. Honest, you're trusting, you are honorable, perhaps. Those are some of the words that can be used, synonyms that can be used along with trust. So as we think about these particular words and things that make up our level of trust, our level of values, it's interesting to go through a process like this, and I'm sure you can find them a lot of different places, these kinds of lists. Excuse me, I'm sorry, that can offer you the opportunity to really discern what your particular values are. And why is it important to have values and even recognize what they are? Good question. Well, I think it's important to do that so we really are understanding of who we are. This is one of those steps of understanding who we are and what we're about and the things that are important to us. Because once we define those things, it makes our life so much easier. We know then what we might want to stand up for in our lives. Um, if family is another value, if your family is important to you, you will stand up for your family. You will be there for them. You will fight for them if need be. You will be there. And so those are, as you look at what are these values and why is it important for you to be trustworthy? Well, that just comes from our core, I think. If whatever these values are, they're part of our core, our soul, who we are in this world. And many of us have very similar values. I would imagine if you had this discussion with your friends and or family in a conversation, you would be able to recognize that many of you share the very same values. You may have a few that are different than the others. But as we live our lives, most of the time it comes down to about five core values. Mine are family, honesty, trustworthiness, trusting, and being able to go with the flow most of the time. And humor is an important value to have. A sense of humor to me is important. And heaven knows if I hadn't had a sense of humor, that probably would have croaked a long time ago. So I think that as we can take a sense of humor into our lives, I think that is very, very helpful to us. So I would encourage you to think about those things that are important to you and how they're going to fit into your life. These things also hold us to be whether we're into integrity and responsibility, which we had a brief discussion about that last week, but I had such interesting situation. I lost, we had technical issues. I lost the phone line 2 different times. Never had that happen before, didn't have it happen since. So I'm not sure what was going on last week. But anyway, as we look at that and think about how our values will impact our level of integrity and or responsibility. So I would think that if we are going to have high integrity, we would have values such as, honesty, trustworthiness, being trusting, um, holding ourselves to not to be perfect in any stretch of the imagination. Some people do, and that's okay if that's what's important to them. It's not to me, and or at least perfection in the term that most people know it. But in the meantime, I think that as we look at what is integrity and how we represent that, I saw a little posting on Facebook, and then you've probably seen the sign before that says integrity is doing what's right when no one's watching. So that really boils down to the real gut core definition of integrity. If you can do the right thing and be honest, be forthright, whatever it is that is when nobody else is watching, that's a true level of integrity. And I think that for the most part, most people try. We do know that there are a few people in this world that certainly, in our opinions, may be lacking in integrity. But here again, they're the ones that have to live with that. And if we are the ones that just we observe it and let it go as an observation, I think that's what is important, is as we observe people and their levels of integrity, as long as it's not infringing upon us, our work, or our families, I think that becomes then a when it's infringing upon us, then that's one thing we have to address that, or perhaps let it go. It just depends on how important that is. So all of this, of course, becomes very subjective and depends on how you want to deal with it based on your values, what's important to you, and how you need to live your life. I think sometimes many of us could probably benefit um, from having the opportunity to step back and let some things go. I know I've learned that over my life, and continue to learn it each day, almost every day, and to be able to say, this is how important really is this in the real broad spectrum of life and times. And in my life, is it really important to go and create a respond or react, because often we're reacting to people when they cross our boundaries, or they're in our opinion, their level of integrity is not working well. So here again, that's one of another things that shows perhaps a high level of integrity, is learning to know when to address the issue, when to let it go, or when to let it be for a period of time, and then come back and be able to have a conversation about it, so that it doesn't look like we're attacking or defending ourselves, or whatever the situation is. Again, I invite you to call in at 347 838 8835. I'd love to have some conversation about this and hear what other people have to say about what are the values that are important to them in their lives. And also, as we talk about the integrity and responsibility and add that in here a little bit, a couple of the notes I made last week and points I made is looking at your level of responsibility and how you show up in your life and do the things that um, really tell the world who you are. In one sense, when we're responsible, truly responsible, we take ownership of our behavior. We take ownership of what we say, and we take ownership for really who we are in this world. And we don't make excuses. We don't blame other people. We don't justify all the other things as the reasons why we haven't done things. So as you look at the level of responsibility, I had a situation where I'm in a leadership group, and as I'm observing some of the people in the organization and in the class, this year's class, I look at and I hear some of the conversations that go on. I would love to have a whole conversation with them on what is the level of responsibility, what is the level of a professional, what is the level of a leader, and where are we with that. And the way I interpret leadership is that I, as a leader, try to exemplify the the role of a leader, to take the not pay attention to, as the gossip. If there's something important, listen to it and hear it, but don't get wrapped up in it. And that's sometimes, as we talked about gossip a few weeks ago, it was really, really hard. Sometimes it's hard to step back from that. And then, but as a leader and being responsible, it's when you see something is not going on correctly, it's being responsible enough to go take it to the organizers, or the committee chairs, or the senior level executives, wherever it is that you are in your life, and you come across these things. It takes a risk, it does. But here again, it depends on what your values are, that will help you also be responsible. And I'm hoping that truly makes sense to you, because obviously it makes sense in my mind, but I'm hoping sometimes when I'm trying to explain things, I know that it can be a little bit complicated. So as you look at responsibility, learned a game at a conference a few years ago called the Responsibility Game, needless to say, and it was a time when we didn't shame, blame, or justify anything in our lives. And that's when you start thinking about this, it really opens your eyes to a new way, or a reminder of the way that we really, in my opinion, need to lead our lives. Because when you blame someone else for your circumstances, whatever they are, or whatever the situation is, and if you're blaming someone else, you're actually giving them your power. So if you want to own your power, always be responsible for who you are, what you've done, what you've said. Sometimes it's not pretty, but it always becomes, it's what, when you look in the mirror at the end of the day and really look at yourself, can you say, I did a great job today. I did the best I knew how. I showed up. I did the things I had said I would do. That's what it really boils down to. Can you do that and then not blame anybody else? Also, when you're shaming yourself, we all put ourselves down. Not we all, but generally speaking, many people put themselves down. And it it sometimes surprises me when I hear people do that. But I think sometimes it's become a habit, or maybe they're feeling a little insecure. Whatever it is that causes people to put themselves down is needs to in my opinion needs to be addressed, and they need to either get some help with it, or just think about, oh really, I don't need to put myself down. you know I need to just, here again, own my own power, be who I am, and do the best I can. And sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's not pretty. So, and justifying, well, one of the things I discovered in this conference, at the time, I realized I justify so much in my life, or did. I did justify a whole lot. I'm still working at it day in and day out. It's an easy way to give excuses and tell people why you haven't done what you said you would do, why you're running late. And in the most situations, it's really not that important, because people really don't want to know. If you just tell them, I didn't get this done or that done, and here's my plan to get it done, then that's clear communication. But when you are um, saying, well, I didn't get it done because of this and because of that and because of the other, I realized I had become the queen of justification. So at this point in time, I'm no longer the queen. I'm moving down the ranks to be just the peon of justification, so that I can truly lead a more responsible life. And here again, it's amazing when you start thinking about this, how, if you look at your day each and every day, and even stop at moments and during the day and say, am I really being responsible in my life and in my work? Am I being a responsible parent? Am I being a responsible spouse? Am I being responsible in my relationships with my family and my friends? So as you look at this, these all come back to our values and what's important to us in our lives. And so I think if you would take a moment, write down everything you can think of that's important to you in your life. Here again, some of the key words that we used were things like um, trust, honesty, trustworthiness, and um, lost my page, so sorry about that. 1 second. There we go. Um, Being lovable, that's an interesting value. And to love, be able to love. Um, Being thoughtful, a risk taker, be original, be creative. These are enjoy beauty, be embody grace and gracefulness. And men can do that too. It's not just a feminine thing. And so I think if you can look at those things, a sense of humor, being feeling truly good and acknowledging that. I think these are some of the key things. If you can sit and just think of all kinds of different things like that that are really important to you. And I encourage you to have that discussion with your family. What are the values that hold your family? Because if you're a parent, especially a parent of young children, these are the values that your children are going to grow up with. And then, they will at different times look at, reevaluate their values, where they are and what they're planning to do and things. But these are the things, and that's what, as a parent, one of the things I tried to do was to give my children the best values I could think of, that to help them be able to live their lives. And so as we go forward, we're about ready to wrap up for today. And again, I appreciate those who are listening in. I would love to have had you call so that we could have had this discussion. But in case you're listening in the archive for the recording and or watching the video now, just know that you can always be in touch with me via margaretmartin.com. And I'd love to hear from you at any time. As I said, I'm a speaker. I like to give keynote presentations on the book, the topic of the book, The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power. And I also enjoy doing other training programs such as professionalism, time efficiency, stress relief, quite a few other different programs that I provide. And as a coach, one of the things I truly love is helping people get clear in their lives as a life guide and also as a career transition coach. I do a lot of work with people in careers and helping them not find the job, but find what really is the work they're meant to do, as well as learn how to do job searching. So if I can be of help to you, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, it's Margaret Martin at margaretmartin.com. You can find me on Facebook at let's see, I'll post that link, which is facebook.com/margaretmartin.speakercoach. That's the link for my Facebook page. I'd invite you to join me there. And so next week we'll actually be taking a week off. I have a conference to go to, so I'll miss you next week. You can listen to the recordings, all the various ones there. The week after we'll be wrapping up The Chatter That Matters. We'll be putting it all together and going forward with a whole new topic in June, which I will keep you posted on that. So I'm planning to do some interviews with some of my author friends so that you can hear more about their books and the work that many of them are doing in this world to help make our world a better place. So I invite you to listen again next week. Have a great one. Bye now.